Hey everyone, welcome to today's explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. Just a quick note before we jump in, this explainer is brought to you by Forge College. Okay, so today we're taking a massive step forward in your journey from Ethereum to Solana. We're literally going to build a Solana token factory blueprint. If you're looking to transition those EVM skills over to the SVM, the Solana virtual machine, well, this is exactly where the rubber meets the road. We're taking all that theory of token creation and turning it into a concrete, executable mint lifecycle right on the devnet.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's the assembly process we're going to build together today. First, the minting blueprint. Then, setting up the factory, building the warehouse, the atomic assembly line, quality control, and finally, wrapping up production.
So part 1, the minting blueprint. Think back to our previous lesson on token models. Today, we're actually translating that theory into action. We're going to initialize a mint, create the necessary accounts, and do a first issuance transaction. But before our factory can even exist, we got to talk about rent. I know. Paying rent is a universal annoyance, whether you're living in an apartment or, building on a blockchain. But on Solana, it's an absolutely foundational concept. Rent exemption is basically the mandatory funding of landports required to keep a newly created account alive. Before we can run our token machinery, we absolutely must fund our new accounts with enough landports to reach a rent-exempt state. If we don't, the Solana runtime simply won't accept them. No rent, no account.
Now, what's really interesting here is this specific number, 82. 82 bytes is the exact tiny amount of space our SPL mint account needs to store its core configuration. That's it. Just 82 bytes to hold the token's decimals, its current supply, and critical authorities, like who is allowed to mint more tokens and who's allowed to freeze them. It is just an incredibly efficient storage model.
Moving on to part 2, setting up the factory.
Before we flip the switch and start running the machinery, we really need to take inventory. We need to know exactly what parts we have on the factory floor, what their purposes are, and most importantly, who actually holds the cryptographic keys to operate them. So let's walk through this parts list. We've got 3 main actors. First up, the mint account. Its whole purpose is to hold the settings, the decimals, the supply, and those authorities we just talked about. Your key pair creates this and pays the rent. Second, we have the associated token account, or ATA for short. This is what actually holds the token balance for a recipient, and its ownership is derived directly from the recipient's wallet. And finally, we have the pair, or the fee pair. This is the key pair that actually foots the bill for the creation fees and signs the transaction. Let me tell you, understanding who pays and who signs is half the battle when you're transitioning to the SVM.
All right, part 3, building the warehouse. Of course, a factory is pretty much useless if you don't have a place to ship the goods once they roll off the assembly line, right? Well, on Solana, those shipping containers are called associated token accounts. An ATA is a token holder-specific account that is deterministically derived from a wallet public key and a mint address. Just remember, on Solana, your minted tokens don't just sit directly inside your main wallet account like you might be used to. No, they must land in an ATA that strictly matches the new mint. This is actually a brilliant design because it keeps the main wallet clean and organizes your token balances into their own separate manageable accounts, which are each subject to their own rent exemption rules.
Next up, part 4, the atomic assembly line. So we have our mint, we have our warehouse, but how on earth do we wire this all together so it runs in one seamless, fluid motion? We really don't want to leave a messy, partial state behind if something goes wrong. Well, there are 2 distinct ways a developer can build this assembly line. First, you can use the CLI, which I like to call the hand crank. It relies on quick, manual terminal commands. It's really fantastic for fast verification and just kind of learning the ropes. Versus, on the flip side, we have JavaScript, or the automated machine. This is the programmatic approach where we build robust, multi-instruction transactions. Both are absolutely incredible tools to have in your developer toolbelt.
If we take the CLI hand crank path, it's a super straightforward 3-step process. First, use the command spl-token create token to create the mint. Easy enough. Then use spl-token create account to derive and create the ATA for your recipient. And finally, use spl-token mint to actually mint the tokens right into that newly created ATA. It's linear, it's manual, and it gets the job done perfectly for quick devnet testing.
But let's move to the automated machine and see how this builds out when we use the JavaScript approach. Here, we actually bundle everything into a single cohesive transaction. Step 1, we create the account for the mint, funding it with our rent-exempt landports. Step 2, we call the token program to initialize the mint, setting our decimals and authorities. Step 3, we add the instruction to create the ATA, and Step 4, we add the mint to instruction. Now, because the mint account is totally new here, this single bundle transaction is then signed by both the payer and the mint key pair simultaneously.
And here is the absolute beauty of bundling these instructions in JavaScript, the concept of atomic submission. It is literally all or nothing. If any single part of that multi-instruction transaction fails, say the payer doesn't have enough LAN ports or an authority is mismatched, whatever it is, the entire conveyor belt stops and reverses automatically. It fails safely. You are never left with a stray account or a broken partial state sitting out there on the blockchain.
Which brings us to Part 5, Quality Control and Simulation.
Look, no good engineer ever pushes code to the factory floor without a proper test run, right? So why simulate before you send? Well, if you've ever felt that universal developer dread of pushing unsimulated code straight to production and just watching it break, you definitely already know the answer to this. On Solana, simulation is your absolute best friend. Simulating the transaction catches missing signer errors, incorrect funding, or mismatched authorities early, way before you actually spend any fees or permanently alter the blockchain state.
When you run your quality control using the CLI or the devnet Explorer, there are 3 mandatory checks you really must perform to verify your state changes. First, confirm the mint info. You want to ensure the decimals are correct and your mint authority is listed properly. Second, confirm the ATA. Actually make sure the account exists, holds the right balance, and is owned by the token program. And third, inspect those transaction logs. You want to look specifically for the initialize mint and mint2 entries and make sure there are no runtime errors. Don't guess, always verify.
And while you're verifying, please watch out for this massive gotcha, especially if you're an EVM developer transitioning over. Look at the number 100 here. If you create a mint with 6 decimals, and you execute a command to mint 100 tokens, you are minting 100 raw base units. You are not minting 100 human-readable tokens. No way. To mint 100 full tokens, you'd have to mathematically account for those decimals. It's a small detail, but always remember that the mint command speaks strictly in raw base units.
Finally, Part 6, Wrapping Up Production.
So, the crucial point is we need to ensure these workflows become second nature to you. If you take literally nothing else away from today's explainer, please lock these 3 practical principles into your mind when building mint life cycles on Solana. Number 1, always fund your new accounts to a rent-exempt status before initialization, otherwise the network will completely reject them. Number 2, assemble related instructions into a single transaction for atomicity, all or nothing, so you never leave partial states lying around. And number 3, always simulate before you send. Surface those missing signers or metadata issues early so you can fix them completely stress-free.
That brings us to the end of our blueprint, but it opens the door to a really fascinating question for our next lesson. How will attaching on-chain metadata and utilizing Token 2022 extensions change our factory's output? Well, we're going to use this exact same mint we just created today to explore those advanced features next time. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. Please head over to forge.college to dive deeper into this subject and explore a ton of other incredible Web3 topics. Until next time, keep building and keep learning.